Welcome to Winning Retirement Television. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, joined today by Greg and Kristen Taylor of Legacy Retirement Group. And to our viewers at home, we are talking about some big birthdays today, significant birthdays. And if today's your birthday, happy birthday. Kristen, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Fantastic. Thank you.
Love that green. Is that Kelly green? Is that what that's called? Yeah.
And I love that color on you, that beautiful lilac. It's literally perfect on you.
Oh, thank you.
It really is. Greg, how are you today?
I'm doing awesome. Good to be here with you guys.
It's so good to be here with both of you. And I'm excited about today's show because obviously we're going to be talking about some big birthdays. And when we think about aging, sometimes we think, oh no, we've got the achy bones, the creaky bones, we're sore, we're like, oh my gosh, gray hair is coming. But there's also some significant birthdays that we have to think about when it comes to our overall retirement planning. So this is going to be a fun show.
It is. Our son Jaden loves his birthday. That's like his favorite time of the year. Aww. And for weeks beforehand, he's reminding us that his birthday is coming. And his number one thing for birthdays every year, he wants to go to Dave & Buster's. So big party
what is
there.
That exactly? Is that like Chuck E. Cheese?
Yeah, like games, video games.
Okay.
Yeah, Dave & Buster's, and you
get tickets. Well, they're not real tickets anymore. It's tickets on the card, but you're able to get prizes.
So
and
for
Chuck E. Cheese
for $200, you can get a $5 prize.
Exactly.
It's a great deal.
I love it. I love it. That's true. Well, the first year I want to talk about here, the first big birthday is age 50. Why is this significant, Greg? Turning age 50 in the retirement arena.
Well, 50 is nifty, right?
50 is nifty.
Yes, no. So age 50, when it comes to retirement accounts, gives you the opportunity to catch up.
Turbocharge.
Yes.
Turbocharge.
So
yay.
With a traditional IRA or Roth IRA, if you're able to contribute to those, you can do $7,000 per year if you were under age 50, and if you get to age 50 and older, you now get to add an extra $1,000
on the HSA as well.
Yes,
you're able to catch up on the HSA and add extra after you're age 50.
Yes, and then on the 401k, you get to add an extra $7,500, so for a total of $30,500 this year into the 401k. So that's another reason to be happy you turned 50.
Yes. And with that knowledge, does that also help you reduce this year's taxable income as well?
It can if you are of the mindset to defer.
Okay.
But it could mean that you get to pay your taxes forever on a Roth 401k versus a traditional. If you're in that 24% or lower bracket, we don't want you kicking the can down the road.
Okay.
We don't want you delaying. We don't be like the CPA who wants to be a hero this year.
You said history. You
I know,
started to say history. What are you trying to do to the poor CPA?
That CPA needs to be history if he's telling you to defer. Yeah, for sure.
No, but you know what? What else I think with age 50 that we didn't really think about until I just thought of it just now. You may have thought of it before.
I did.
You don't even know what I'm going to say.
I love it. You too.
Did you think about it at age 50?
Oh, for sure.
You thought about it for sure?
I don't know. What are you talking about?
But it's time. That's what the kids do to us. They say, right, Mom? Right? And I say, I'm not saying right. I don't know what you're talking about. But at age 50, I think it's time to really get serious about retirement because you're in that 10 to 15 year mark at that point. And if you're really getting serious about thinking of it, you can start making a good dent in contributing to a Roth at that point.
You sure can.
Versus waiting till you're 5 years out and then it's not much significant money saved up in it at that point. But if you're 50, you might have 10, 15 more years, maybe even 20.
You're starting to depress people. They're thinking, we got to do this 15 more years.
No, I'm actually telling you how young you are because you might have 15 more years, 20 more years before you're ready to retire. We've talked about this before.
100%.
When you love what you do, there's a timeline there.
That is very, very true.
We could go to Hawaii and then be Hawaii 5-0, right?
Oh, my.
Perfect. That was great. Kristen, what about 59 and a half?
Well, at 59 and a half, that marks the point where you no longer have that 10% excise tax on taking dollars out of those tax-deferred accounts.
Right, so they let you put extra in at 50, but if you take any out before you're 59 and a half, then they say, shame on you. You get a 10% extra tax you get to pay.
That's where it's a little bit of a sweet spot, too, and some planning goes into that and understanding what your needs are so that you're not putting more than you can afford in at your detriment because you don't want to have to pay unnecessary money towards taxes.
Very
for
true.
Sure.
Very, very true, actually. Greg, I want to ask you, what about in-service distributions? What are those?
In-service distributions.
Yep.
Well,
in-service distributions.
if you're still working, then you're considered to be in service.
Okay.
Okay, in the service
Still
of your
employed.
company, right?
Okay.
And so if you want to take money out of a 401k or a 403b or any of those types of accounts that you have through work, those are called qualified plans. An IRA is not a qualified plan, it's just an IRA. But anything you have through work is a qualified plan. So that could be deferred compensation, that could be 403b, that could be TSP, that could be a 401k. All those are qualified plans. So an in-service distribution typically happens when or the ability to do so typically happens when you're 59 and a half.
Okay.
Most plans have that written in if you're 59 and a half or older. Even if you're still working for the company, you could roll out that 401k. And so people might ask, well, why would I want to roll that out? Because typically at our companies, we're not getting a lot of help.
Well, they're not allowed to help you, really.
Right. We're not getting much help
Yeah.
when it comes to how to manage our 401k.
Very
and
true.
And for the
Yeah.
most part, our options that are available are fairly limited. What we're seeing people do in general is that since they don't quite know what to do and since the options are sort of limited, they tend to go into what we call target date funds,
Okay.
that 2025 fund or that 2030 type of fund. And it's not that those are necessarily good or bad, but if you really think about it, do you even know what in the world you're invested in? If you're in a 2025 fund,
No. Chances are no.
you really don't. Do you
Yeah.
know who's managing it? Do you know how it's benefiting you? Do you even know if it's efficient? Do you know what its risk score is? There's so many things there. So if you have that in-service distribution available, in some cases, it makes sense to consider rolling that over to a traditional IRA, which then will allow you to start converting to a Roth IRA if that was appropriate for your situation, or setting up a plan so that, well, for instance, we just had a couple do a big in-service distribution from their 401k. They don't plan to retire for 5 years, but they had a big income need in 5 years. They needed an additional $100,000 a year.
Wow. Okay.
So we were able to set aside some money in their income bucket that's going to provide that extra $100,000 in 5 years as part of that in-service distribution. So they were able to start early, getting that income plan laid out in place and ready to go. And the nice part about that, market volatility will have no impact on that income plan.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yes.
So overall, it's very important to have a distribution strategy in place before turning 59 and a half. Would you agree, Greg?
Oh, for sure. The earlier, the better.
Okay.
Now, in some cases, if people are under 59 and a half, they don't have any access
Right.
to the accounts. But if they do, perhaps it's an old 401k from a former employer or an old 403b, and those have access, whereas if it's your current employer, typically you don't.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, Kristen, I know that you and Greg have a very special offer to present to our viewers at home today. Let's talk about what that is before we take our very first commercial break.
Yeah, so whether you're coming up on the 50th birthday or 59 and a half, or greater, which we're going to get into later in the show, I think it's time to maybe just go ahead and start with your planning and do a complete planning review. Have us look at what accounts you have, what dollars we might be able to set aside for income later into your retirement, or just looking at your overall investment plan as it's currently set up and see if it makes sense for your distribution phase. And you're able to schedule that complete planning review right on our website at legacyretirementgroup.com, or just pick up the phone and call 614-336-7660.
Kristen, thank you so much. Greg, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, that number to call is on your screen, 614-336-7660 for your complete planning review. Again, that number is 614-336-7660, or grab your smartphone, click on that QR code at the bottom corner of your screen. That will take you right to Legacy Retirement Group's landing page. You can claim your spot accordingly. We're talking all about significant birthdays today, and we're going to go into the 60s when we return. Stay tuned.
For over 4 decades, the government has been telling us you can save for your retirement in tax-deferred accounts and take a tax deduction on your current income. They tell us no worries. When you retire, you'll be in a much lower tax bracket. You can then take withdrawals and save a boatload of money on taxes. We have been conditioned to pay the least amount of taxes today
assuming tax rates will be much lower when we retire. But let's be honest, with over $32 trillion in national debt, we have a tax bullseye on our backs. Take control of how steep your tax burden will be in retirement by taking the Roth Conversion Challenge. Provide us with your retirement account statements, and we will design a Roth conversion plan for you and your family to make your retirement income plan truly tax efficient. Enough is enough. Don't let the future legislation significantly increase your taxes during retirement. Take the Roth Conversion Challenge with us and remove the tax bullseye from your back. Go to testmyretirement.com or call to set up your no-cost, no fees, no obligation consultation. We look forward to seeing you at our office, and have a blessed day.
Welcome back to Winning Retirement Television. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, joined today by Greg and Kristen Taylor of Legacy Retirement Group, and we're talking all about significant birthdays when it comes to retirement planning. We've covered the 50s, now we're going to go into the 60s. So we're talking about different chronological ages, if you will, as we're planning out retirement. What happens when you turn 62? Kristen, what happens 62?
Yeah, so 62 is the earliest age you can draw from the Social Security benefits. So it would be drawing your benefit early.
Okay.
Okay, so the only negative with, well, one of the negatives with drawing it at age 62 is that you're going to be taking a reduction in benefits. It could be as much as 30% reduction in benefits to get those dollars there. But you can consider that, especially if you're having a health issue. There's an income need there. Maybe you've already stopped working and you need those dollars to maximize the income that you're thinking of taking. And so that's the first age where you're really starting to consider Social Security.
It is, and sometimes, Cynthia, it is a part of our overall income plan for a family to have them start taking Social Security at 62. In fact, I'm thinking about a couple that we started working with in the last several months, and the husband is 66 right now and getting ready to retire. The wife is 60, and in their situation, she really never worked outside the house a whole lot. She was really dedicated mother. She homeschooled her children. Just a fantastic mom, and so she, at age 62, will get half of the husband's Social Security minus a discount because of taking it early. But for them, it just made sense as a part of their overall income plan to do that, and that way they didn't have to pull as much out of their investments for income that they would otherwise need to take.
Okay.
So it's really on a case-by-case basis, but
it can be a way to optimize your income when you start getting into retirement early. Yeah.
Okay.
anytime you take your Social Security prior to full retirement age, then you have to be cautious about any earned income that you might have.
Yeah.
So if you decide that you want to go back to work, you want to do some consulting, any of those things, you have a limit of just over $22,000 per year that you can earn without having to give back some of that Social Security benefit.
Okay.
And it's on a 2-for-1 basis. So for every $2 above the limit you earn, you give $1 back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's a 2-for-1.
Wow,
And you
all
don't
right.
really necessarily want to do that. Now, there is a way that if you get some wonderful opportunity, you take it early, you get some wonderful opportunity, if that happens within the first 12 months, you actually have the ability to pay back the Social Security that you received
Okay.
and be as though you never took it. Okay? That's a one-time window within 12 months of when you first start taking it, or otherwise you could pause it. So there are some ways to kind of undo it. Should you make that decision and find out later, it would have been better to wait.
Okay, all right, perfect, Greg. Thank you so much. And what about, I'm going to keep you in the hot seat, what about age 65, Greg? What happens at 65?
You can't drive 65. No.
Sammy Hagar,
Yeah,
right?
I think it was 55 though.
I think it was too.
Yeah, it was. For some reason, they thought that'd be a good idea to make people drive 55, and that never worked out, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think so
I don't
either.
think anybody really drove 55.
No, good attempt though.
But yes, so 65 is the age at which you're eligible for Medicare, unless you're on early disability, which you can get it sooner. But for most of us folks, it's age 65 that you're eligible for Medicare. And then you have to decide, if you're still working, do you want to go ahead and take Medicare or you want to wait? And as long as you have credible coverage, you can delay taking Social Security, or Medicare rather, and it doesn't impact your Medicare Part B premium.
Okay.
But if you don't take it when you're eligible and you don't have credible coverage, then if you wait, you can end up paying an additional Medicare Part B premium the rest of your life. So you have to be cautious of that. And once you sign up for Medicare, then you need to decide, do I want to stay on traditional Medicare or do I want to go on an Advantage plan? And we have a team member that I've referred people to since 1994.
Wow, 94.
long time.
Yeah, a long
That's
time.
great.
This guy is just a good friend, and that's what he specializes in, is Medicare stuff. So I don't even try to keep up with all the ins and outs any longer, but we have a person that we help people find that can help them get those decisions made when it comes to traditional Medicare or Medicare Advantage.
Yeah, because timing really matters on that. You say you don't care to keep up with it anymore, but you usually pretty much know all the ins and outs.
Well, there's a lot of rules, though.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that everything's done right.
Greg, thank you. Kristen, what about full retirement age, 66, 67? What happens with that magic number?
Yeah, so that is full retirement age. That's where you don't have that reduction, that discount that happens because you're taking it early. This is the full retirement age, and this is the age where most of you watching will typically consider taking your Social Security benefits. Now, here's the only thing, and I know I'm jumping ahead here to age 70, but what people a lot of times are on the fence about is whether to take it at full retirement age or delay it and take it later and get that bump up in benefit around 8% per year, right?
Right.
And I think that becomes almost more complicated than it needs to be. What we've found at our practice over the years of doing Social Security optimization and really trying to figure out what makes the most sense is that if you're going to delay taking your Social Security after full retirement age and you have to draw from your own assets, so those dollars you say, that nest egg you have, then it doesn't usually make sense. The trade-off doesn't really happen. And we actually figured that out from a client who was an actuary.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Who did this intense spreadsheet.
She worked for IBM.
Yes,
Amazing.
and so when we would do this optimization, a lot of times it would come back to take it, but she really dug in and looked at it in her case and showed us what she found, and we couldn't argue with it. It just made sense.
I tried to prove her wrong.
You did.
I spent a week, because she's in Florida, so Krista and I were flying down to Florida to meet with her, and I was going to have my guns loaded. I was ready to go in
No,
town.
not literal guns.
No. What's
with you today?
Yeah, my information guns, all right? And yeah, my Clint Eastwood look here.
Yeah.
But no, I was going down to prove that delaying was best. And she's like, well, Greg, if you can prove that to me, more power to you. She said, but I don't see it. I spent a week trying to prove her wrong, and no matter how I sliced or diced it,
Gosh, this was over 10 years ago.
She was right.
Yeah.
Wow.
She was right. And because the Social Security software and all that stuff that's out there doesn't consider you spending your own money. It only
Interesting.
considers you not getting their benefit. So when you consider your dollars that you're letting go of, it's nearly impossible to ever catch up by waiting.
Wow. Thank you so much. Well, Greg, you and Kristen have a very special offer to present our viewers at home today. Let's talk about what that is before we reopen the phone lines.
So, we've been talking a lot about Social Security here and
Yes.
Medicare and those types of things. Well, that's all part of a written income plan. And, a lot of people have done a great job, Cynthia, of saving their money, but they don't know how to transition that into a dependable income stream.
Makes sense.
So for those of you watching today, we want to help you understand how you can take that nest egg and turn it into a dependable income stream with a written income plan. Help you navigate the waters of Social Security, Medicare, taxes, the whole 9 yards, and put together your own written plan. So if you pick up the phone, give us a call, 614-336-7660, or go to our website, legacyretirementgroup.com, hit schedule now. You'll be able to claim your appointment to set up your own meeting to get your own individualized written income plan.
Greg, thank you so much. And Kristen, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, that number to call is on your screen, 614-336-7660. If you don't have a pen handy, go ahead, grab your smartphone, click on that QR code at the bottom corner of your screen. That will take you right to Legacy Retirement Group's landing page. You can claim your spot accordingly with Greg and Kristen. We're going to take a very short commercial break. Don't go anywhere. We started the show with the 50s. We segued into the 60s. Well, coming up next, we're going to dive into the 70s. Stay tuned.
The work never seems to end until the day it finally does. After nearly a lifetime on the job, you should be rewarded for all the time you spent working. Whether that's crossing off items on your bucket list, learning a new passion, or rekindling the love of an old one. After all, life isn't over when you stop working. It's the start of an all-new chapter. The one where you're the writer and you get to choose how your story will go. A way to achieve that is by having a clear financial plan to sustain your golden years. The biggest fear most retirees have is if they'll have enough money to maintain the lifestyle they've always enjoyed. Having a plan to help protect you against the curveballs life often throws will help to maintain your lifestyle. Call today to get your free written financial plan so you may live every day to the fullest and enjoy the retirement of your dreams.
Welcome back to Winning Retirement Television. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, joined by Greg and Kristen Taylor of Legacy Retirement Group. And if you're just joining us, we're talking about significant birthdays in retirement. We've covered the 50s, went into the 60s. Now we're entering the 70s. Thank you for joining us today. This is such a fun show when you think about it, celebrating different birthdays, different milestones, but we've got to jump into the 70s. What happens, Greg, at age 73?
We're staying alive.
Staying alive, staying alive.
There's been a song for every segment on this show.
There really has.
Yeah.
I can't help
On the rights
it,
to
you
the
know.
music.
You know, people still come in to the office and say, now that 70 and a half thing we have to do. And I said, well, it's not 70 and a half any longer. We don't have to count the other half here.
Thank goodness.
They kind of turbocharged that age over the last couple of years.
They have.
haven't they?
And under Secure Act, the original Secure Act, it bumped it up from 70 and a half to 72. And then with Secure Act
2.0.
2.0.
Yep.
That's right. Then it went to age 73 for now. And then in 2033, it goes to age 75.
Okay, interesting.
And that's when we have required minimum distributions.
And that's the thing that, you know, I think we take for granted how confusing it can be to retirees or people who maybe kind of getting to that point where they're starting to look at these things. It's just the required distribution you have to take from those IRAs. And I think
What could be confusing about at the end of the year, the end of the previous year, before the year you turned age 73, you divide it by 26.5, and all of a sudden you have exactly what you need as a required minimum distribution.
Oh, and don't forget,
you understand that completely?
Don't forget, you might be able to delay it after April 15th of the
But then you have to
following
take
year.
2 that year.
Yes.
Not confusing at all.
Much.
Not confusing.
There's so much.
It's like that game where they put the ball in the middle and you
Yes.
the cups, the 3 cups. I
Yes.
mean, oh my gosh.
They do that at the Buckeye games. with
Yes.
Brutus.
Yes.
Yes.
So as you can
So
see,
much to remember.
There's so much to remember, and so there's really not a silly question. I mean, a lot of
true.
times
No.
people feel silly when they have to ask these things, but we do it every day. However, we understand that most people really aren't thinking about it. Their heads down. Our staff is amazing. We don't talk about them enough on the show, but a lot of times they'll say, you know, we are just heads down today because they're so busy and they're just heads down getting things done. They didn't know that the printer went out. They had 5 things in queue to print and they were heads down working. Well, that's why you hire an advisor. That's why you get someone to help come alongside you and work through these things with you so you don't have to remember them all.
Absolutely.
First, do your due diligence, get educated so that you're empowered to make good decisions in all these areas. But it's going to be a little confusing. Don't feel silly about that.
Oh, by the way, if you don't take your required minimum distribution when you're supposed to, it's a 25% penalty. But if you turn in yourself, then it's a 10% penalty. But years ago, it wasn't a penalty. They would forgive you. And
say that 10 times fast.
Yes.
That's
the penalties is
crazy.
something we didn't talk about. To say that a little slower.
So let me slow that down
Yeah.
just a bit because it can be confusing.
Okay.
So at age 73, by the end of that year, unless we decide to delay it for the following year, we have a required minimum distribution.
Okay.
If we don't take our required minimum distribution and the government catches us, it's a 25% penalty now. If we catch it and we fix it, it's now a 10% penalty.
There used to really not be a penalty if we caught it and fixed it.
It used to be a 50% penalty if the government caught you, and if you turned yourself in, they would just say okay and forgive you. So where they used to just say okay and forgive you, now they charge you 10%.
Okay.
Okay, so
So you just don't want to do that. You don't want to
yeah,
forget to
because
take
they
that.
weren't getting enough of the 50%ers. They had a lot of people that were catching it and turning themselves in, so that really they said, don't look over here where we're taking it 50% to 25. Look over here where where we are actually going to charge you 10% when it used to be 0.
Oh my gosh.
But regardless, there's a penalty if you don't take it. So that's important to note. So it's important that you have somebody that understands the importance of taking required minimum distributions and how it works and how to set it up and all those things. Because there's a factor, it's called a life expectancy factor. So when you're 73, they're going to take the previous year-end value, they're going to divide by 26.5.
Okay.
Which is the number of life expectancy years. That's slightly under 4%.
Okay.
So if it's $100,000, you have about a $4,000 required minimum distribution.
Wow.
Yeah.
All of these things are so confusing. I mean, they really are. You need professional guidance.
You do.
Kristen, on that note, I know that you and Greg have a very special offer. Let's spend some time talking about that before we say goodbye to our viewers at home.
Yeah, I think it's a great time to go on our website and click on tools and download the request for the My Retirement Kit. On that kit, it's going to give you a lay of the land of the things that you should be cognizant of throughout your journey of preparing for retirement, marking down those dollars that you've saved, what tax qualifications they have, and that'll help you formulate the questions for you as you come in and meet with us. You can call 614-336-7660 or request that right online at legacyretirementgroup.com.
And again, it all comes down to comprehensive, realistic, and holistic retirement
Yes.
planning, if you will. Kristen, thank you so much. And Greg, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, we'd like to thank you for spending time with us today on Winning Retirement TV. We realize that we covered some significant birthdays, and some of those probably apply to you. And you have questions with where you stand in your life right now. Don't miss the opportunity to call in 614-336-7660 and claim your spot with Greg and Kristen accordingly. Be safe, be happy, be blessed. Thank you for spending time with us on Winning Retirement TV with Greg and Kristen Taylor. We look forward to seeing you back again next week. Take care now, and thank you again for watching.